Welcome, everyone, to the lesson to help you master the American English accent. And in this lesson, you're going to shadow me so you sound like a native. And first, let's start with the American R sound. During this lesson, I want you to shadow me. So make sure you open your mouth and repeat after me. And remember to pay attention to your mouth position. So here in this sentence, we have the R sound. So let me say the sentence and then we'll practice the R. I heard a weird rumor. So notice heard, That is the American R sound. Now you want to look at my mouth position to understand how to form that sound. And when you're practicing pronunciation, you want to forget about the word and just think of it as sounds. And you want to lengthen the sound as you're practicing. So everyone practice with me. And hold that out. I heard. Notice how prominent, how much you can hear that sound. I heard a weird rumor. Notice how that R position slightly changes at the beginning of the word because it's more of a rounded lips. Rumor. But then you still push out the sound. Rumor. And this end just sounds, this OR is just pronounced as So you have a little bit of a E sound that you can't separate from the R sound. It's So if I were to write it out, I might write it out starting with an E, and it sounds like rumor. So hold out that R at the beginning. Rumor. And that's how you want to practice pronunciation, is you lengthen the sound. Rumor. So that's the R. We'll keep practicing it. Let's repeat this together. The river is rising. So notice here, river. So at the beginning, you can have more of a rounded lips. The river. You're not going to hold the sound as much at the end. So rounded lips, river. The river is rising. Okay, repeat after me. The river is rising. That's an excellent one to practice. How about this? The car. R. So here for the word car, you can't separate the vowel and the R sound. They're just together. R. So it's impossible to just have the A without the R sound. Car. And of course, the C is pronounced as a K. Car. On that street. So notice when you say street, you want to pronounce the ST quickly and then hold out the R. Street. Okay, repeat after me. Street. And you can hold out that R sound as long as you want, but that's to practice. Of course, if you're talking to someone in the real world, you would just pronounce it quickly, but fully. But when you're practicing pronunciation, you can hold it out as long as you want. Street is red. And you can hold out that R. The car on that street is red. So when you practice with this lesson, I want you to hold out those R sounds. How about this one? Return it right away. So the R at the beginning, you can hold out more. Return it right away. I'll say it more naturally. Return it right away. Right. So you want to make sure you have that strong R. It must be strong if you want to sound like a native speaker. And if you're practicing an American English accent, that strong R is an important sound in American English. Return it right away. Right. Now, another important sound, which I find a lot of students are familiar with, is what we call the flap T. This is when a T is actually pronounced as a soft D. And this is a very important American English sound. This happens in many different words, but one word where it's very common is if you have a vowel, then you have the letter T, and then you have another vowel. Then the T, instead of a T, which forces out air and creates a pause, you can do a soft D. So let's practice that. Before we practice that, I do have this free speaking guide to help you speak English fluently and confidently in 6 easy steps. So you can go to my website at the link below to download this free guide. And in this guide, it will teach you about pronunciation as well as all the other areas that you need to master as well. All right, so you can get this on my website at the link there, or just go to jforestenglish.com and you'll see it. And if you're enjoying this lesson, make sure you like this lesson. It truly supports my channel. Subscribe so you're notified every time I post the new lesson, and put yes, yes, yes if you're enjoying this lesson. So I know you're engaged and you're having fun. Okay, so remember, we're practicing the T that sounds like a D. So what word in this sentence would the T become a D? Well, that's kind of a trick question because there's only one T. So here, I need some water. There's 2 things I want you to notice. We're just going to look at the word water. Water. Now, spelling and pronunciation are not the same in English. English is not a phonetic alphabet. You have to learn pronunciation by listening to audio. You can do that by listening to native speakers in the real world, or you can use an audio dictionary as well. Thank you so much, Ariel. I appreciate your generosity as always. Thank you so much. Okay, so I need some water. Wa is the first sound, just wa. Der. So we have that strong R at the end because that ER, it's impossible to separate the vowel from it. So all you hear for the ER is er. But then this T is becoming a soft D. Der. Water. And then you have to think about syllable stress. The syllable stress is on the first sound. Water. Now, in American English, this student is asking to pronounce the word litter. In American English, it's pronounced litter. Those 2 T's become a soft D. Litter. And then you have to think about syllable stress. Litter. Okay, so great example there. That's a better idea. This other student asked for better as well. This water is better. Better. That's a better idea. That's a better idea. Now, this is how Americans pronounce it, American English speakers. That doesn't mean you need to pronounce it that way, but in order to improve your listening skills of American English, this is what they use in Hollywood movies, most of your favorite TV shows like Friends, The Office, TV shows, this is how they speak. So if you want to improve your listening skills of English in the real world, this is how native speakers speak. Maybe your teacher won't speak like this because your teacher will slow the speech and over enunciate words to help you understand, but this is how they speak in the real world. Okay, how about this one? Richard, we have that strong R sound at the beginning and towards the end. Richard lives in the city. City. So the T in city becomes a soft D. City, D, D, D. Not T, T. And the only reason why this happens is to make pronunciation easier. That's the only reason why this happens, because in speech, it's easier to pronounce a soft D than a T, because a T forces you to take a pause. It produces a puff of air, and we want to avoid that. That's the only reason why this happens. Richard lives in the city. City, city, city. How about this? Can I have a little more butter? Butter, der. So for little and butter, those two T's become soft D's. Can I have a little more butter? Can I have a little more butter? Little butter. So this word, the student is asking, so we have two sounds that we're practicing right now. We have that T in the middle that will become a soft D, and that OR is pronounced as er. So you can think of it just as the R sound, but in spelling, it would be the schwa, the upside down E, and then R. Trader. 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 And then you have to think about syllable stress. Trader. Dada. Trader. 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 Okay. Now, let's move on to the TH sound. Again, this is one that most students practice, but you have to think of the voiced, which this is the symbol, and the unvoiced. So the voiced, you put your tongue between your teeth. Everyone do this. And then you push out the air. This. Now, if you do not do that, it's going to sound like a D. It will sound like dis, d, because for the D position, your tongue is curled. This. The only difference between a D sound and a voiced TH is that for the voiced TH, your tongue is between your teeth. And that's a mistake that I hear students make. And I can tell because I can see in their mouth position that their tongue is not between their teeth. So when you think about pronunciation, you should always practice in a mirror. Right now, I can see myself. I can see my tongue between my teeth. It's very helpful to do that. This. Now, let's move on to think. It's the exact same mouth position. And you just push out the air, but you don't produce a sound. But you are producing the TH. Think. But it's not a silent sound. The TH is still a sound. It's just not voiced. This, think. This, think. Okay, so in this sentence, there's a voiced TH and an unvoiced TH. So which one is which? Which word with the TH is voiced And which word is unvoiced? You can just do a V for voice and a U for unvoiced. While you think about that, I'll answer Marcel's question. This, these. So it's voiced for both of them. This, these. The difference is the long E sound for the plural. This, the singular, has a very short vowel sound. It's in the throat. It's unstressed. This, this. But for the plural, these, ease. So my mouth goes out more for the E, these, these. So it's not in the TH, it's in the vowel that you hear the difference. Okay, so tooth, unvoiced, mother, voiced, tooth, unvoiced. What do you think? His mother dropped a tooth in the sink. Could you hear it? His mother, there. So we have to go from the TH, which is voiced, right to the there, mother, mother. So again, when you're learning the pronunciation, don't think about it as a word. Just isolate sounds. This is made up of two sounds, mother. And then we have to think about how to combine those two sounds with syllable stress. Maybe there's linking as well, but those are the sounds, mother. So if you have a super long word, don't worry about it. Just think of it as individual sounds. Practice individual sounds. Practice the sounds together. His mother dropped a tooth. Tooth. Tooth in the sink. Tooth in the sink. Tooth. Tooth in the sink. His mother dropped a tooth in the sink. Okay, same thing. We have a voiced and an unvoiced. I handed them a thick blanket for the trip. What do you think? I handed them. So that's voiced. Them. A thick. Don't forget to get that tongue. You must get your tongue between your teeth. Thick. Thick is unvoiced. Them. Thick. Them. Thick. So when you're practicing pronunciation, it's also very useful to practice one sound, like just practice the voiced, and then have them side by side because you need to get comfortable changing between sounds. Them, thick. Them, thick. What you're doing right now is like if you're doing some gentle weights at the beginning of a workout, or maybe some stretches at the beginning of the workout. It's just some gentle practice for your mouth to get warmed up and to practice those sounds. So when you're speaking in the real world and you need to say this instantly, your mouth and your brain has had a lot of practice. I handed them a thick blanket for the trip. Okay, she told those kids to walk through the hallway quietly. She told those. So we have O's. The last part is O's. Those. She told those voiced. She told those kids to walk through unvoiced. She told those kids to walk through the hallway quietly. Exactly. It's a workout for those muscles. And there are muscles in your mouth, of course, in your face. So you are working out your muscles. Okay, how about this one? He'd rather go hiking on Thursday. 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 So you can't tell by looking at me because my tongue will be between my teeth. It's the same position for both. So you can even just practice that and practice between the TH voiced and unvoiced. Voiced. Right there, I'm doing both. That would be a great exercise for your mouth, a workout for your mouth if you need to improve this sound. Right now, I'm going through all the major sounds that students often confuse. If you don't need to practice this sound, well, then don't do it. He'd rather go hiking on Thursday. He'd rather Thursday. So then you can go back and forth between the voiced and the unvoiced. Rather Thursday. Rather Thursday. Okay, how about this one? Though it was cold, they said thanks and kept walking. Though it was cold, they said thanks and kept walking. Though. So that's a voiced. Though. They is voiced. They, thanks, 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 thanks. So the first voice sound you hear is the A, anks, 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 thanks, thanks. But if you it's not a silent sound, because a silent sound is you would just say anks. Anks. There's a difference between thanks and anks. Thanks, anks. So it's not silent. There are silent letters in English. TH unvoiced is not silent. It's unvoiced. There's a big difference between a silent and an unvoiced. Okay, let's move on and practice W and V. A lot of students confuse these. The difference between them is really easy to perfect this. However, it just takes practice. It takes practice and paying attention to your mouth position. She wore a white dress to visit the vet. Okay, so what is my mouth position? Wore, white, visit, vet. This one is very easy to identify because the mouth position is different. If you're looking in a mirror, you should see that for W, you have rounded lips. Imagine you're kissing someone. War. And then you push out the sound while your mouth is in that rounded position. War, war, white, white, war. Now, that is the V sound. So you put your teeth on the lower lip and then push out the sound because it's a voiced sound. Visit, visit, vet. Now, just like the R sound, you can hold it out. Visit, vet, visit, vet. She wore a white dress to visit the vet. So hold out those sounds while you're practicing pronunciation. They drank. So when you see a sentence, also think about the other words that we've practiced, like the voiced th. They drank. That hard R sound, strong R. Drank wine while watching the volcano erupt, 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 erupt. Volcano, volcano. They drank white wine, or they drank, I could have added white. They drank wine while watching the volcano erupt. That's a great one to practice. How about this one? We watched the sunset from a window with an amazing view. So you can always go back between the two sounds you want to practice. Try to do them as quickly as possible together as a form of practice. Window, view, window, view. And then go back and forth between rounded lips, window, view. And then with your teeth, window, view, window, view. So that's how you want to practice. It's an exercise, just like doing some gentle motions at the beginning of a difficult workout. You do this before you give a presentation, before your IELTS, or just 5 minutes a day if you're practicing WV. If your teacher tells you you have an issue with your pronunciation of WV, this is what you do 10 minutes a day. We watched the sunset from a window with an amazing view. Okay, we heard, we already saw this sound for the R practice. We, with rounded lips, we heard a voice, whisper in the woods. So voice, whisper, voice, whisper. Go back and forth, back and forth. That's how you practice. We heard a voice whisper in the woods. How about this one? The kids waved. So we have a W and a V in one word. When you get comfortable with the sound at the beginning position, you can practice it in other positions as well, and even combine the sounds. Waved. So you're going from those two positions in one word. Waved. So again, don't think about it as sounds. Think of it as, or don't think about it as a word. Just think of it as sounds. Waved. The kids waved from the wagon near the small village. Village. Wagon, village. Wagon, village. Okay, let's practice the ED sound. This is in the past simple for regular words that end in ED. And there are 3 pronunciations. I hear a lot of mistakes with this as well. Now, 2 of these pronunciations are almost identical in fast speech. In the speech you'll hear on TV, the difference between a T at the end and a D at the end, really, you're not going to hear it. But you will hear the difference between an id. And the most important point is that id adds an extra syllable. And that's why you hear it. You don't necessarily hear the sound, but you hear the fact that there's an additional sound. There's a whole new sound created. Words and woods do not have the same pronunciation. They begin with the same W, w, were, but this OR is pronounced as were, words, words, and then woods, oods. So the vowel sound is different, and the fact that there's an R sound, a very noticeable R sound in the first one, but not in the second. Words, woods, words, woods, words, woods, words, woods. So you can practice that. Okay, how about this? In this, there are all three sounds. We have an id, a t, and a d. So your task is to identify find the word that ends in ed. So we have one here, and one here. Now, which one is the id, which one is the t, and which one is the d? So find that here and put that. And I will say it as well, and that will help you. She laughed, then called her friend, and finally waited outside. So we have id, t, and d at the end. She laughed, then called her friend, and finally waited outside. She laughed, then called her friend, and finally waited outside. Now, hopefully you noticed with waited, there was an additional sound. Because when I said laughed, the T, it was a T. Exactly. It was a T at the end. It doesn't add an extra sound. I have laugh. That's the base verb. Laugh. Laughed. That's it. But I have wait. Waited. It adds an extra sound when I add waited, and there's an ed at the end. So yeah, laughed is T, called a friend, there's no ed there because it's separated with a D. And same with, we're only talking about the end ed when it's in the past simple verb. That's what we're talking about here. So waited is a id. Waited is id. So you got laughed and called correctly. Friend and outside aren't what we're doing. And waited is id. So yeah, called is D. Waited is id. And laughed is T. Okay, let's try this one. So we'll try it again. They cleaned the garage after they needed supplies and helped neighbors. So again, find the verb in the past simple that ends in ed. So we have clean as the base verb. And then we have help as the base verb. And where's the third one? Need as the base verb. And then you have the ed. There are 3 different pronunciations. I'll say it again. They cleaned the garage after they needed supplies and helped neighbors. That's awesome. I'm so glad you're here watching me live. That is amazing. Yes, cleaned. Exactly. Cleaned. Needed with id. and helped as T. Okay, exactly. Cleaned, needed, and helped. Very good, everyone. So notice clean, when you add the D, it's just the same number of sounds. Cleaned, needed, id, needed, 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 and helped, helped with a soft T. How about this one? We smiled the whole time because we invited everyone and danced all night. We smiled the whole time because we invited everyone and danced all night. Hey, Gabrielle and Salim, I'm teaching a class right now. So if you want to have a conversation, maybe you could do it elsewhere so I can focus on the students who are learning. Yeah, and Zainab, maybe you could participate in our class. We smiled. What is this? Smiled. Exactly, Enoch. D. Smiled. Very good. The whole time because we invited. Exactly. And danced. Danced. Exactly. Now you got it. Way to go. Okay, how about this one? We watched the replay before he opened the window and added a comment. Also, know that when you're creating sentences for pronunciation, don't worry about what the sentences mean. They're grammatically correct. Every sentence I wrote is grammatically correct, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So when you're writing sentences for pronunciation, don't worry about the sentence, the meaning, just focus on the pronunciation. Okay, watched, exactly. Watched, watched, watched the replay before he opened, yes, exactly, opened, because it doesn't add an extra sound. And then added, did, added. Very nice. Now you guys got it. Okay, same thing. I decided to stay home. I cooked some pasta. I loved the quiet evening. I decided to stay home. I cooked some pasta. I loved the quiet evening. So this is a great exercise to take advantage of ChatGPT or other AI technologies, because you can ask ChatGPT to generate a list of, let's say, 10 sentences, and every sentence must contain the 3 different pronunciations, or every sentence must contain a voiced and an unvoiced. So this is a great task to give to ChatGPT, and then you can practice using those sentences. So whatever sounds you're struggling with the most, get ChatGPT to generate sentences, and then you just practice 5 to 10 minutes per day. Okay, I decided exactly, to stay home. I cooked with a T some pasta. I loved a soft D, loved the quiet evening. Exactly, I decided, decided. The past simple adds an extra syllable. Okay, now let's talk about the unvoiced S and the voiced Z. I see the lions at the zoo every summer. So most of the time the spelling matches. So we have S, but then Z. Your mouth position is the same. z, s, z. So that's what you can do. Just go back and forth. S, z, s, z. See, zoo. See, zoo. See, zoo. See, zoo. I see the lions at the zoo every summer. So make sure you get that z, zoo, 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 z. Has to be voiced. See, zoo, see, zoo. And just go back and forth. See, zoo, see, zoo. So that's a great pronunciation practice. And remember, pick the one sound you're struggling with the most and just focus on that sound. Don't try to do everything we're doing in this lesson at once. But these are the most important sounds if you want to master American English pronunciation. She passes by and plays the piano beautifully. Now, sometimes the S will become a voiced sound. And that's what we have here. Plays, plays. And same with this one. Easy, Z, Z. So it's Z, Z, it's a voiced. Easy, plays, plays. And that's why sometimes in text messages, native speakers will even spell it like this in a text message. Because when we're talking with our friends and things, we don't really care about spelling or grammar rules. We're just communicating. So you might see someone write the S as the voiced sound. Let's do this one. The ice. So this CE is just pronounced as S. The ice melted. Okay, so we have the ED and we also have the voiced TH. The ice melted id because it adds an extra syllable. Melted in front of my eyes. Z, z. So you have that voice sound. Eyes, 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 eyes. Z. The ice melted in front of my eyes. So that's a great one. Yeah, exactly. Eyes. Eyes. Exactly. The bus made a loud buzz when it stopped. Okay, what do we have here? Because we have stop and then we have an ED. So we have one of our three options. And then the bus made a loud buzz when it stopped. So we have a T sound for this ED. Stopped. Stopped. And exactly. Melted was an id sound. Melted because it made an additional sound because we have melt in the present simple or the base verb. And then melted is the past simple. Melted. Melted. Stopped. Exactly. With the T. Stopped. Please. Please. Face. So the CE, just like we saw with ice, the CE is pronounced as just S. Please face forward and raise. So because I'm practicing pronunciation, I'm going to push out the sounds longer. Raise your hand if you know the answer. Answer. So here we have an example of a silent letter. Actually, there are two silent letters. Does anyone know what the silent letters are in this? Yeah, raise. Excellent. Great job, Natalia. Raise, raise, raise. And we have that strong R. Raise. Awesome. Yeah, exactly. So that W is silent because it's not pronounced at all. Answer. So it's just by silent, I mean when you say it, just pretend it is not there. So if I were spelling it phonetically, I wouldn't even include it. I would just say answer, S-E-R, sir, answer, answer, answer. Exactly. And then the K in no is silent as well. No, no, of course. Please face forward and raise your hand if you know the answer, sir. Okay, now we talked about S and Z, the unvoiced and the voice. So let's talk about S and SH. So please sit in the ship. Okay, so look at my mouth position. Sit, ship. So the SH, your lips will go out like that. Shh, 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 s. But for when you form the S, your lips go out more. S, sh, s, sh, s, sh. So that's what you want to do. When you're practicing pronunciation, just focus on your mouth. Don't think about the word. Just think about the sound. Please sit in the ship before we leave. Please sit in the ship before we leave. And then you can just focus on the sounds too. Sit, ship, sit, ship, sit, ship, ship. How about this one? The sun warmed. We have an ED here, and we have three choices, id, T, or D. And we have a voiced TH. The sun warmed, D, warmed with a soft D, warmed, and it doesn't add an extra syllable. The sun warmed the shore. Shh. So remember, shh. Your lips go out. Shh. Shore all day. The sun warmed the shore all day. Exactly. Exactly. It's a great way to think about it. So you always want to think about what your mouth is doing, what your tongue is doing. That's why practicing in a mirror is so important. They passed. So we have S, but then we also have our ED, and we have to choose one of three sounds. It's always one of three sounds, id, T, or D. They passed T. They passed the store, and washed their hands outside. So washed, we go from the SH, which your voice is up or your lips are out, sh, and then you go into a T position for the ED. Washed, washed, sh, washed, washed, and then a voiced TH for there. They passed the store and washed their hands outside. Exactly. Passed is also a T. Washed is a T for the ED sound. Very good. She said hello while holding her new shoes. So she shoes. You can also practice the same sound in different words. She shoes. So you can do that as well. The bus stopped near the shop at noon. The bus stopped near the shop at noon. So shop. Okay, so this is the famous tongue twister in English because it's a difficult sound combination to go back and forth between SH and S. These tongue twisters are for native speakers because eventually twist means like this. Like right now, my fingers are twisted. Okay, my fingers are twisted. Maybe these could be twisted. They're like that. So you can imagine that's what happens to your tongue. It gets twisted, which means you're unable to produce the correct sound. So the point of these is to say them as quickly as you can. And the second you get to the period, you immediately go back to the start and you try to see how many times you can say it without messing up, without making a mistake. That's the purpose of a tongue twister. And native speakers, we do this for fun, especially as kids. But adults sometimes do it as well. Okay, but for this, we can practice pronunciation and we'll say it slowly, but just know tongue twisters are not said slowly. Tongue twisters are always as fast as you possibly can. But I don't think we're ready to do that because you don't want to rush it. So practice slow. And if you feel you're ready, you can do it as a real tongue twister, which means you do it as fast as you can. So she sells seashells. So notice we're going from S to SH in one word. Seashells. So just do that. Seashells. She sells seashells by the seashore. So same thing. Seashore. Seashells, seashore. So the purpose is eventually your brain is going to get confused and it's going to produce the wrong one. And then your tongue will be tied and it won't sound correct and everyone starts laughing. She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. That is not a tongue twister because you have to say it very quickly. She sells seashells by the seashore. Okay, do you want me to do it as a real tongue twister and see how many times I can do it? If you do, then you have to say yes in the comments or something so I know you want me to do it. Otherwise, I won't do it. Okay, we'll move on to Y and J. Now, this is specific to some native languages have difficulty with Y and J. Maybe in your native language, you don't have difficulty with Y and J. So it just depends. Okay, well, some students want me to do the tongue twister. Okay, I will do the tongue twister. You guys count how many times I can do it without screwing up. Okay? So you guys have to count. So give me like a smiley face or a thumbs up so I know you're ready to start counting. And you count by doing the second I get to the period and then I go back, that's 1. Okay, so we'll see how many times I can do it without screwing up. And the second I do it incorrectly, that's the end. All right, Alexander's going to count. Okay. All right, let's do this, guys. 3, 2, 1. She sells seashells by the seashore. 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 Okay, I screwed up. So eventually your tongue will just get confused. But that's how fast native speakers do tongue twisters. And there's no, as you saw, there was no pause. It's like immediately back to the front. 7? One person says 5, one person says 7. I wasn't counting because if I also have to count, I'll get confused. One person said 6, one person said 8. Wow. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. Can you beat me? Can you beat me? You can see. You can see. Another person said 5. That's fun. Tongue twisters are fun. That's why native speakers do them, because they honestly are a lot of fun. Okay, let's move on. And if you want to practice that with your friends, definitely do it. You have tongue twisters in your own native language, I'm sure. I'm sure you do as well. All right. How about this one? She said, yeah, yes, and ate some jam on toast. So some students pronounce my name with this very soft J sound, but that's not the sound. In English, J is like this. J, J, J. It's fast. When I snap my fingers, that's the sound. But if you say it softly, it won't sound like that. So it's J, 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 jam, jam, J, jam, 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 J, J. But then, yes, you can hold it out. So the Y sound is flowing, I guess I'll say. It flows. Yes. Yes. You can't do that with J. It doesn't work. But sometimes students do. Try with my name. But that's not it. It's a very strong sound. But yes. 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 Jam. Yes. Jam. Yes. Jam. Jam. Yes. Jam. Yes. So that's how you can practice it, just to make sure one sound is very strong, very quick. J, j. Snap your finger and say the sound. J, j, jam, jam, jam. But then yes, yes. You can hold that out. That sounds fine. Yes. She said yes, yes. She said yes and ate some jam on toast. Okay. I told a joke. I told a joke about a yellow bird. Joke, yellow. Joke, yellow. Joke, yellow. So one is strong, one flows. I told a joke about a yellow bird. Yellow. He mowed the yard. Where's the yard? I'm like, where's the Y? He mowed the yard, and drank fresh juice. Yard juice. Okay, the young. This is where I often hear Spanish speakers add a J sound to this word specifically. So Spanish speakers, pay attention. Young. The young girl met a judge at the courthouse. The young girl met a judge at the courthouse. After a big yawn, yawn, He pulled on his jeans. Jeans, jeans, jeans. Yawn, jeans, yawn, jeans. All right, everyone. Connected speech linking, that's a different category. It's not really sounds, it's how sounds change, but we'll save that for another time. And this is what we learn in a lot of my lessons naturally anyway. So I'm glad we're ending it here because you can focus just on the individual sounds. So do this lesson again, but also you can look in the timestamps, which will be added later, and you can see the specific sounds that we practiced. And either you know what sounds are confusing for you, or your teacher will tell you what sounds you need to work on. And then you can practice those sounds, just like you would do stretches every day, some gentle movement every day. You're doing the same thing for your mouth, for your pronunciation. 5 to 10 minutes per day. That's the best thing you can do to improve your pronunciation with these exercises. They're vocal exercises. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed our lesson today. If you did, like this lesson, subscribe so you're notified every time I make a new lesson, every time I go live as well. And then put yes if you enjoyed this lesson as well. Woohoo! I am so glad. Thank you so much. Oh, and I did get some sun. I spent a lot of time outside this weekend. So, yes, I got a little sun. Thank you for noticing. All right, everyone. Woohoo. I'm so glad you enjoyed the lesson. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. And you can also get this free speaking guide. Like I said before, you can get it from my website, jforcedenglish.com. Make sure you download it. It's absolutely free. It will be emailed to you along with lots of other tips and advice. All right, everyone, have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see all of you in my next lesson. Bye.